What's up, everybody? Welcome to the next episode of the Jake Fletcher Show podcast. I'm Jake Fletcher in Miami, Florida, bringing you guys an episode today that I think is a very important topic that a lot of people, I feel, really, truly would benefit from. And I look around our society, I look around our world, and I see that this is a huge problem with a lot of people and a lot of societies around the world, okay? So, the topic I want to talk about today is accepting yourself. How to accept yourself, okay? This is a topic that is scary for a lot of people to talk about because it involves acknowledging who you really are, which involves your faults, your things that you're good at, things that you're bad at, right? And everything in between, okay? So I'm going to give you guys 7 steps to accepting yourself, okay? And this is a topic that has always, throughout my entire life, been very important to me. And if you go back and look at the music that I created, you'll see that a lot of my lyrics are involving accepting yourself, self-empowerment, really being who you are, okay? And I feel that it is absolutely imperative to take this step in order to reach the next level of your own personal possibility, your own capacity and aptitude to achieve the best version of yourself, okay? You can't be the best version of yourself if you don't learn to truly and fully accept yourself, okay? So, step number 1, you're going to want to start out with figuring out your identity, okay? So what that means is, and I don't mean your identity in terms of your sexual identity or anything like that, although that can be a part of it. What I mean by your identity is who you are. How do you fit into the fabric of humanity, into society? How do you fit into your framework of your own mind, how you view the world, right? How the world is set up, how your family structure is set up, your relationships with other people outside of your family. How do you fit into that context? And in addition to the external factors, how do you fit into your own definition of what it means to be yourself, okay? Now, what I mean by that is, what type of personality are you, right? What is your internal driving force? What makes you tick? What makes you happy? What makes you sad? What makes you excited to get out of bed in the morning? What makes you mad? What makes you sad? What makes you feel like you're on top of the world? And what makes you feel like you're in the depths of a trench, right? And you don't have to necessarily be a psychologist to identify all these things. It's merely a matter and a process of doing self-reflection, taking the time to search within and figure out who you really are. You don't even have to put words to it necessarily. If you're somebody who is a very visual person and you can conceptualize it, that's fine. If you're not, you can also write it down, right? Take a journal and write down the things in all the categories of life that are important, okay? Your financial situations, how do you handle that, right? What do you want out of that? What are your goals? What are the things that you can do better, right? Your family, your family relationships and your relationships with other people, your ability to look at problems and how to overcome them, your internal structure of every single way that you relate to the world. How do you react to somebody doing something that you don't like, right? What are your vices? Are they food, drugs, alcohol, right? Be honest with yourself, okay? You have to be honest with yourself, which is something we talked about in the first episode. You have to take that first step of truly being honest with yourself if you want to figure out your identity, if you really want to flesh out and do this whole process of figuring out who you are and identifying yourself and how you fit into the fabric of humanity. The reason why that's important is because if you don't have a clear idea of your identity and who you are, then how are you ever going to get to the point where you're accepting who you are? You won't know what you're accepting, right? So you have to take this step. You have to do the tough work up front of figuring out what your identity is. Another thing to think about is, in this same topic, is that if you want to figure out what your identity is, it's also very helpful and important to think about your future identity, okay? Not just who you are right now, but imagine who you would like to see as your future self, right? Are you, a successful business person? Are you doing a bunch of different charity work or giving back to the world in somehow? Are you able to travel the world and do amazing things, amazing experiences that are very unique? Whatever it is, right? Figure out what you want to see as your future identity, okay? And take the time to figure out who you are now and who you would like to see. Once you start to take the step of figuring out who you would like to see as your future self, then you can begin the process of taking the steps to getting there, right? A lot of people will go through life without a clear idea of where they're going and who they want to be in the future, and they're just kind of aimlessly doing one thing to the next, what they think is the right thing at that moment. When you have a greater clarity on the long term and where you're going in the long term, who you're going to be in 5, 10, 15 years from now, whatever it is, then it's a lot easier to inform the steps that you're going to take now, today, this week, this month, this year, to get there, right? So take the time to figure out your identity, and while you're doing that, figure out what you want as your future identity as well, all right? Now, that's the first step to accepting yourself. You got to know who you are if you're going to accept who you are, okay? So the second step is to forgive yourself, okay? Now, this is another one of those kind of cliche things, but again, these cliche things are cliches for a reason, okay? And we have to take a second look at these things. We have to stop thinking of them as these colloquialisms, these memes that we see on Instagram or whatever, as, oh, cool meme, I support that, I agree with that. No, we need to dive deeper into it, okay? We need to dive deeper into the concept of what it means to forgive yourself, okay? I'm not talking about, oh man, I forgot to brush my teeth today. I forgive myself for that. No, I'm talking about the deep-seated things that you need to heal from, that you personally are afflicted by, that affect you on a daily basis. They affect the way that you interact with the world, the way that you interact with people, the things that you do, the way that you conduct yourself through life, okay? These could be past traumas. These could be, whether it was your fault or not, or just an accident or the fault of someone else, okay? So past traumas or ordeals that affected you greatly. These could be mistakes that you made in the past that you maybe regret. These could be things that you had no control over whatsoever, but for whatever reason, it had a large impact on you. Your circumstances, your surrounding, your environment, or the people around you, to an extent that it had a great effect on your life, okay? These could also be things you have no control of in terms of how you were born or what your genetic tendencies are, right? Are you overweight? Are you colorblind? Are you somebody who has some kind of mental health issues? Are you somebody who feels isolated from other people? Or are you somebody who's depressed? Are you somebody who is going through a extended period in your life where you feel like you have no direction or you don't know what you're doing, right? Which can lead to despair, okay? There are endless examples because humanity is infinitely diverse, right? But the point is you have to get to the point where you're able to forgive yourself for the way you are and the way things are that affect you okay, directly. The power in this is you cannot truly move on from something until you've acknowledged it and until you have accepted it, and then and only then are you even able to think about moving on. Also, in addition to acknowledging something, accepting something, you also have to be able to see past it, okay? You have to forgive yourself. Let's take an example. Let's say that you're overweight, okay? Because that is a common thing, okay? Especially nowadays. Let's say that you're somebody who's overweight. It's something that you feel every time you walk out of the house, every time you look in the mirror, every time that you're in a certain social situation, maybe when there's a certain dress code or whatever it is, and you don't feel comfortable wearing whatever it is that other people are wearing, and you feel like you stand out because you're overweight, right? Now, the thing that you need to realize, okay, using this example, and it applies to other examples as well, is there are plenty of other people in the same boat as you, okay? In our society, that's one of the most common issues, right? Is people are overweight, okay? So you have a majority of our population who are dealing with the same thing as you, okay? So in that sense, you have, in this example, you have a lot of camaraderie with other people, all right? Now, another thing is you have to be able to look past that in the sense of you don't have to always be overweight, or you don't have to always feel that way about being overweight. You can also embrace it, embrace who you are, embrace the negative things about yourself that you perceive as negative, the things that are the issues that arise in your life, the biggest things that are holding you back. Everbrace those things as part of who you are, okay? Because you can bet every dollar that you ever will make and ever have made, that your enemies, they will use that against you. People will use your deficiencies against you and these things that you perceive as weaknesses in yourself against you, okay? So by embracing it and acknowledging it, making it a part of who you are internally and being okay with it, you take the power out of those people's hands to be able to use it against you. Okay, now the process of actually forgiving yourself is not easy. Okay, it can take years and years and years. All right, and it's probably the hardest part of all of this for people to get past, because it's difficult. It's difficult enough to forgive somebody, other people who maybe didn't even do anything that bad. Somebody might just do something not even having to do with you that you didn't like, and you hold a grudge against them forever, right? People are ridiculous in this way, all right? People will hold on to grudges. It's killing you. It's toxic into your soul. It's toxic in your heart and in your mentality, okay? And it's not helping you, right? It's doing more harm to you than it is to the other people, right? So it's hard enough to forgive other people, right? So forgiving yourself is even harder, because these are deep-seated internal things that we feel about ourselves, and therefore it's a part of our internal programming. It's not an external thing that happened one time and we observed it and now we have an opinion about it. This is something that has taken over our psyche, right? So we have more work to do to dig in there, get to the root of it, and rip it out and plant a new seed, right? Which is a good way to try and forgive yourself, okay? The planting of the seed is the closure on moving past it, forgiving and moving past it, right? So continuing with the obesity example, you're obese, okay? You're gonna accept it. That's part of your identity right now. And your identity can change, by the way. It doesn't have to be the same your whole life. So you accept it as part of your identity. You forgive yourself for having gotten to that point where you feel shitty about the way that you feel about yourself or the way that you look. You forgive yourself for that. Now, instead of just saying, okay, I forgive myself, right? You're going to actually take action, and you're going to plant a seed in place of that feeling that you had before that shitty feeling of not liking how you look or not liking how you feel, you're going to replace that feeling with something else that's positive that helps you. So every time you feel that way, okay, because you can't just flip a switch, right? We're digging this programming out, or we're rewriting the code. Every time you feel that way, go for a run. Do some push-ups, do some sit-ups, right? Go drink a green smoothie, okay? Instead of eating pizza that night, have a chicken cutlet and broccoli or whatever, healthy meal, okay? And replace that negative thought process with a positive action, okay? It's important that it not just be a positive thought process replacing the negative thought process. It's important that it be a positive thought process and a positive action, because it's more affirming. It's more powerful to help us to rewrite that code, okay? Now, the third thing that you're going to need to do here, after you have figured out what your identity is and you've forgiven yourself, take a minute every day, if you can, as much as you can, even if it's just once a week for half an hour, or every day for 5 minutes, or whatever it is, and truly be grateful for what your strengths are, okay? So this is another positive affirmation. This is another method of rewriting the coding of our brain, okay? Instead of having these negative thoughts of, oh my gosh, let's take another example instead of the obesity example. Let's say that you are it's very hard for you to get past the fact, let's say you have another body dysmorphia or something. You have like a big mole on your face, okay? Now, instead of focusing on that every time you look in the mirror all day, every day, or let's say you have acne, maybe that's a better example. You look in the mirror, you have acne, right? You wake up one morning, you have another pimple, okay? Instead of sitting there and dwelling on the fact of like, oh my God, woe is me, how the hell is this my life, and why is this happening to me? Oh my God, I have another pimple. You need to stop when that happens, and you're going to instead be grateful for the strengths that you do have instead of what you perceive as weaknesses about yourself, okay? And you're going to, in a sense, celebrate those strengths, be grateful for them, and you're going to focus on them over focusing on the weaknesses, okay? So maybe you have acne, but you also happen to be an excellent writer, or you happen to be an excellent communicator, or you happen to be somebody that is very kind and caring and does a lot of stuff for other people, all right? Be grateful that you are programmed in that way. Be grateful that you're programmed in that positive way. Be grateful that there are those things about you that are amazing and incredible, okay? You have an excellent eye for photography. You're an amazing singer or guitarist, or you're somebody that is able to look at things in a different way from other people. Celebrate those things about yourself. Focus on those things that are good and positive, and reinforce that positive programming by having that internal gratitude on a daily basis, okay? So that's the third step here, all right? Now, the fourth step is to not be too hard on yourself, okay? Be kind to yourself, all right? Life is already too tough, right? There's so much crazy stuff happening in the world. People are assholes online. People are assholes when you're driving, right? So, instead of adding to that stress of life, adding to the reality, the negative reality, and the sort of this acceptance that the world is this negative place and I feel negative about myself and, what the hell is wrong with me and so on and so forth. Instead, be kind to yourself, okay? Because there is a lot to be said for having that mentality, because if you're going to start off with being kind to yourself, it's much easier for you to be kind to others as well. And when you're kind to others, it's much more likely that they will reciprocate and be kind back to you. So you see, you create this cycle of kindness around you, okay? Now, it's not perfect. It's not to say that nobody's ever going to be mean to you again if you're kind to yourself. Of course not. You know, we live in a world where anything can happen at any point in time, all right? You have to move past that and instead take a moment to do things that are good for you, all right? Do things and have an internal dialogue is probably the most important part of it, where you're positively reinforcing yourself, okay? Instead of thinking, oh my God, you know, I'm having bad grades in school right now. Think to yourself, man, you know what? I am very proud of myself for getting to this point where I'm at, that I got into school, the school that I wanted, right? If you're in college, or I got the job that I wanted, you know, I'm super fortunate to be, you know, living in this circumstance where I'm able to excel or able to create a future for myself and able to affect other people in a positive way, or able to do things that bring me happiness, okay? Versus all the other people in the world who live in circumstances that are atrocious. They're living in heaps of trash, and they're living in squalor and mud and not able to get clean drinking water or basic needs met, okay? Take the time to also, you know, this is going back again on this positive reprogramming and reframing of how our brains work, but also adding in this context of essentially having a positive dialogue as much as possible all the time instead of the negative dialogue. We have a natural tendency to always want to see the negatives in things and see the differences between ourselves and other people, right? So instead of looking at somebody and seeing their differences and how they're different from you and what's negative about them, automatically try to reframe it and see what's positive about them. Man, that person dresses really well. You know, they seem like they, you know, might be not somebody I would resonate with, but let me go talk to them and see how their day is going and make them feel special for a second, right? Let me be kind to them, even if it's just with a smile. And what you'll see is that by reframing the world in that way, where you're giving people the benefit of the doubt, you're giving yourself the benefit of the doubt as well, you will start to see a change in the way that you automatically react to things, okay? Now, this is a process. It is not a switch that you can flip overnight. It is not easy, okay? And admittedly, this is something that I also work on all the time. But it's something that you have to be aware about. It's something that you have to actively focus on. Otherwise, it will not change, okay? And then you'll end up old and bitter and shitty. And those ways that you relate to the world around you will show up in other aspects of your life, okay? They're going to show up in the way that you communicate with other people. They're going to show up in your business relationships, your personal and your personal and your intimate relationships. They're going to show up in every other aspect of your life, okay? The same way that you can almost, when you meet somebody, you can tell just how they speak and the things that they're saying, the way that they react to things, if they are on the type of wavelength where they have this awareness of themselves and they have this awareness of controlling their mind and not letting the automatic kind of default societal programming take over, okay? Now, the fifth thing that you need to do, and it can be done at any step of the way, is eliminate toxic people. Straight up, flat out. There is absolutely no reason to have somebody in your life that is toxic to you, okay? These people they don't care about you. They don't give a shit about what you like or you want or what's good for you. They're only concerned with themselves, okay? So why are you going to let that type of person have your time? Why are you going to let that type of person into your life? There's no reason, okay? Best way to eliminate toxic people in your life, if you can, is to just stop being around them. stop talking to them, stop calling them, stop letting them call you, right? If there's somebody that you can't avoid, like if there's somebody in your family that you're living with, right, and maybe you're not over 18 yet and you can't move out of your house yet, then create a area for yourself to be separated from them and their bullshit, okay? Create your own little space and create your own little reality within that context, within that environment where you feel good and you feel safe and you feel like you can be yourself, okay? Do whatever you have to do to create that space for yourself, all right? Best thing to do is just ignore people, even if they're in your environment and you can't escape from them. If they're coming at you with a whole bunch of bullshit, just ignore them, man. Just ignore them. They come to you, what are they going to do? Force you to speak? Nobody can force you to play their bullshit game, okay? That's your choice, all right? If they come to you with a whole bunch of bullshit, all you have to do is, if you're even going to acknowledge them, just be like, okay, thanks for your opinion, and keep moving with your day, right? That's it. That's it, okay? And if they really won't stop, if they're really persisting and really won't leave you alone, then confront them on it. Don't be afraid to turn to them and be like, look, the way that you're acting, the way that you're treating me, the way that you're speaking is not acceptable to me, okay? Going forward, this is not going to be how our relationship operates, okay? Or else we're going to have a much larger problem at that point, all right? Now, this is going to set them off. It's going to piss them off, right? But you're establishing, you're planting your flag in the earth, letting them know that that shit ain't going to fly anymore, that that is not okay with you, and you're asserting your principles into their bullshit, into their bringing of their shit into your life, okay? Because all these people are doing anyways is just projecting onto you, all right? So eliminate those toxic people in your life whatever way that you can, all right? Don't let them control the circumstances of your life to as much of a degree as you can, okay? Now, admittedly, again, we live in a world where we're around other people. Unless you're living out in the middle of the freaking woods somewhere, to some extent, you're always going to have to deal with people who suck, right? So make sure that you take the steps necessary to eliminate their control over your life, all right? These people might not even be the type of people who are necessarily coming to you with a bunch of negative bullshit to put onto you. They might be coming to you with their negative bullshit, right? Like the type of people that, you know, they always have something wrong. There's always something going wrong, and they're always a victim, and they just want to come to you and vent and bring you their, you know, problems, okay? Because they think that you're their therapist or something, okay? Now, I have great respect for people that can deal with that and deal with people bringing them all their emotional issues and putting it onto them and taking their baggage and saddling it right onto them, right onto you, right? I have a lot of respect for people who can deal with that, okay? But even if you are somebody who deals with that in that way, who's always helping other people with their baggage, you need to make sure that you have a proper release in your life, okay? A healthy one, not drugs and alcohol or other vices that are harmful. But you need to make sure that you are, A, limiting the amount of frequency, the frequency of that happening in your life, the amount of you know, people and instances of that happening in your life. And you also need to make sure that you have a healthy way to deal with that. Because that form of toxicity where people are bringing you their baggage, it's a really tough cycle to get out of because a lot of people are kind of built that way, both sides. The people who are bringing the baggage to you and you for being the type of person who allows them to bring their baggage, all right? And it might be tough for you to be like, hey man, look, you know what? I got my own shit to deal with. I appreciate that you feel comfortable talking to me about it, but I can't always be the person who, you know, deals with your shit, right? I have my own shit to deal with, okay? And it's making it tougher for me to deal with my own shit, all right? So it might be tough for you to say that. So if you are in that situation, then like I said, A, limit how much it happens, but B, you need to have a healthy way to deal with it, okay? So exercising or going to the beach, doing something that relaxes you, meditating, all right, eating healthy, all different types of things that you can do that work for you to be able to de-stress, okay? And to not be too, wound up all the time about other people's shit, because you do have your own things to worry about, right? And it doesn't help you, and it holds you back to have to always be dealing with other people's stuff, okay? And eventually that's going to grind you down, and it's going to detract from you being the best version of you. And that's what we want, okay? That's what I want for you. That's what you should want for yourself. And that's what people who actually care about you want, okay? Those toxic baggage bringers, they don't care, all right? They don't necessarily want the best for you. They might say they do. They might pretend like they do. Maybe every once in a while will try to trick you into thinking that they do. But if they're always bringing you their shit, or they're always playing this victim role and trying to get attention because there's always something wrong with their life, and whatever's wrong in their life is always worse than whatever you have going on in your life, and your problems are invalidated because they're so horribly off, and everything in their life is such shit and you don't understand, and blah, 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 right? They don't care. They do not care about your well-being, all right? Now, it's not to say that you should not go to your friends and people that care about you, or that you care about, if you're having a hard time, if you're going through some tough, situations or whatever it is, then absolutely, that's what friends are supposed to be for. But there's a line, and it's a pretty big ass line. It's not a fine line at all, of going to your friend when you need a shoulder to lean on, or cry on, or an ear to hear you out, and being that person that every single time they're bringing their baggage and saddling it onto you and slamming their negativity and bullshit onto your shoulders, okay? So make sure that you're aware of who those people are, and be honest with yourself that that's what's going on, and that it is affecting you. Even if you don't feel it, I guarantee you it is. And I guarantee you, when you eliminate the toxic people from your life, whatever type of toxicity they bring, you are going to feel weight lifted from your shoulders, and you're going to feel amazing, all right? Now, the sixth thing here is something I'm coining right now. It's called path versus past, okay? Focus on the path versus focusing on the past, okay? The path is the now. The path is simultaneously what you need to be doing right now to progress your agenda for what you need in your life and what's going to be good for you, okay? Your path is now, and it's where you're going, all right? So let me give you an example. You're driving your car. You're not sitting there looking in your rearview mirror the whole time, right? You only look in your rearview mirror when you absolutely need to, okay? You're only looking in your rearview mirror when it's absolutely necessary, okay? Same thing in life. You should only be focusing on the past, looking to the things that happened in the past when you need to, okay? You should not be living life in a way where every day you're thinking about, oh man, the way things could have been, or the good old days, is a nostalgic version, right? Or, hey man, I regret this so much, and it's something that you think about every day, and it affects you so deeply, this thing, this event that happened in your life, even if it rightfully is something that was upsetting or was detrimental to you at the time. What good does it do to you to keep continually focusing on it now, okay? What you should be focusing on now is right now, living in the moment, being in the moment, experiencing life to the fullest in this exact moment right now, because that is the only way to really, truly find happiness and be happy, okay? And finding happiness is inside of you. Finding happiness is within yourself. You don't find happiness somewhere in the world, or in a job, or even in another person, okay? You can be happy with your significant other. You can be happy with your relationship and happy in your relationship, but that doesn't make you a happy person, okay? Only way to be happy is to truly be here and now as much as you possibly can, all right? And also realizing, though, that you should, in a healthy way, be planning for the future. Don't be so focused on the future all the time, right? If you want to buy a Ferrari in the future, don't spend all day looking at pictures of Ferraris. Get your ass to work so that you can make the money to buy the Ferrari, okay? And the work happens now. If you see yourself as being somebody who's able to travel around the world and work from your laptop anywhere that you want to go, don't sit on your ass all day on Instagram pages of trust fund babies that are doing that. Get your ass to work so that you can make money and make that a reality for yourself, okay? It does not work to just sit there and daydream, okay? You have to make a plan. You have to figure out the steps to that plan that are going to make that plan a reality, and then you have to execute, okay? Once you have the plan, it's time to work, okay? So many people are like going around their life saying, oh man, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Oh man, I got so many goals, bro. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And it's like, okay, cool, man. Like, why don't you shut up and show me the work, right? I don't want to hear about your goals. I want to see you make them happen. I want to see the results. I don't want to hear about your plans and your goals and the things that you would like to do. Everybody's got dreams, dude. So don't sit there and just daydream and tell everybody about your goals and plans, right? Get your ass to work. Do the work. Put it into action. Let's see the results, okay? All right? So that's focusing on the path versus the past, okay? Which, of course, you also can say, you don't want to focus on the future too much either, but I feel like it's much more common that people get stuck in the past, which is why I say path versus past. And when you're on a path, you're not looking 10 miles ahead, you're focused on what's directly in front of you, You're not just looking down at your feet and looking at yourself, you're looking like, a few feet in front of you, right? Which is where you're at. That's where you're at, okay? I'm not only thinking about right now the words that I'm saying here. I'm thinking about what I'm saying on this podcast as a whole, okay? That's the few feet in front of me, all right? I know I have things I got to do later on today. They're in my calendar, they're in my schedule, but I'm not thinking about those things right now. I know that things have happened in my past that sucked and that were shitty experiences to go through and that I either wish didn't happen or wished happened a different way, or even things that were traumatic for me. But I'm not sitting here revolving my whole life around this victim mentality of, oh my God, I can't believe this thing happened to me one time, and then letting it ruin the rest of my life because I'm just sitting there focusing on how this one thing happened, okay? It makes no sense to me. It makes no sense. How are you going to let something that happened when you were a kid or when you were in your 20s or your 30s or whatever age that you were at, how are you going to let that affect your life now, today? You woke up today in your body. You're the only one who opens your eyes every morning and sees through your eyes, and you're the only one who can conduct yourself and your process and your path through life to get what you want out of this experience, right? Out of this performance, not dress rehearsal, okay? Now, last thing that I want to talk about is you have to realize that you can change, all right? Now, this whole video is about the process of accepting yourself. And when I say accepting yourself, what I don't mean is being okay with your inadequacies that you can change, okay? If it's something that can't be changed, like you were in an accident and you lost a leg, right? You can get a prosthetic, but you can't grow another leg unless you're a starfish. But, you have to be able to accept things that are things that you either can or can't change, but you have to realize that by accepting things that you can change, you're not necessarily saying that it's okay and it's always going to be that way. You also have to realize that you can change, you can decide to do things differently or put things into action that are going to lead to your life changing or your mindset changing, your attitudes about things changing, or your experiences that you have on a day-to-day basis changing, right? So you get the picture. You have to realize that you can change, okay? As far as the things that you actually can change. If it's something that you can't change, like if you lost a leg, okay. But what you can change is you can change the feeling sorry for yourself, okay? Not saying it's not terrible to lose a leg, of course, right? But back to the path versus the past. Are you going to sit there your whole life and cry about your leg, you know? Fuck, dude, if I lost my leg, yeah, I'd feel shitty as hell, too, for probably a good little bit, you know? Like at least, I would imagine, a month or two, maybe even a few months, right? But I'm not going to sit there and let it ruin a sizable chunk of my life by, you know, becoming this toxic, shitty person because I'm so sad and upset about something that I'm not able to change. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to focus on changing how I view that. I'm going to focus on changing how I let that affect me, okay? Because you have the choice to let it affect you or not, all right? You have the choice to use the power of your mind, which is extremely strong, stronger than anything if you have a strong mind, a focused, strong mind. You have the power to use that to your advantage to get past that hurdle, okay, for something that you cannot change. Let's say that you were molested as a child. Let's go dark with it, right? Yeah, you can't change that. You can't go back. And that's always going to be something that's with you, right? It's always going to be something that, you know, is in the back of your head probably, right? Because it's such a traumatic, horrible thing, okay? But what you can change is you can change the way that you let that affect you in terms of your outward reflection to the world and your inner dialogue, okay? Your outward reflection to the world in terms of you don't have to let it turn you into a sour grape. You don't have to let it turn you into the type of person that would do horrible things to other people, because I think there are statistics that say, you know, victims of sexual, you know, of rapes and stuff like that are more likely than non-victims to commit those type of acts, right? Not that the victims are going to do that, but I believe it's a higher percentage or a higher likelihood people who were molested to then be a molester. So you don't have to let that be your reality. You don't have to let that past experience that you had dictate how you're going to act towards others going forward, okay? Now, and your internal dialogue as well, because you don't have to let that experience that you had force a negative perception of yourself and your inner dialogue, okay? You didn't have the control over that other person. They had control over themselves. And yes, they did something horrible. And yes, it sucks and it's very, very unfortunate, okay? And hopefully it never happens to anyone ever again, but the reality is we live in a cruel world, right? But suffice it to say, just because that happened to you at one point, and I know it's not easy, I'm not saying that, oh, here's an easy thing to do, like quick fix. No, it's something you'll probably have to work on your whole life, and that sucks, I get it, right? But you have the power of how your mind operates, okay? Don't let that person who assaulted you, in this instance, take the control over the rest of your life. You're giving them the reins. You're giving other people or another person the ability to control the rest of your life because of something that happened in one moment, right? Or in a series of moments, okay? So you have the ability to change how you are allowing your mind to operate, okay? This is all going back to that internal mental coding, that mental programming, the programming language of our brain, of our mind, okay? The things that happen in our internal dialogue, all right? So realize that you can change. That's step number 7, all right? Realize that you can change and commit to it, all right? And that's the most important thing and how I'll end this podcast. If you're going to do any of these steps, you have to commit to it, all right? You can't just say, oh man, you know what? You're right. I need to forgive myself, okay? And then move on, right? It has to be something that you put parameters on and commit to forever, all right? For your life. Because otherwise you can regress, right? You can go back to, being too hard on yourself. You can go back to having that negative or unhelpful framework or mental programming. You can go back to being around toxic people, okay? You can go back to focusing on things that happened in the past too much, okay? You have to commit to the things that are the toughest, all right? The things that are the toughest for you are the things that are going to require the most commitment from you if you actually want things to be different, all right? If you actually want to be able to accept yourself, okay? You're not going to just flip a switch on any of this stuff and it's going to just change you forever. It doesn't happen like that, okay? So you have to be willing to commit. Put parameters to it, okay? I'm going to do X, Y, and Z things every single morning because that's going to help me to make this change that is going to help me towards accepting who I am and changing the things that I want to change about myself. And commit to it. And if you mess up, hold yourself accountable. Make a contract with yourself where, you're saying, okay, I'm going to lose 10 pounds and, do a marathon, okay? And then let's say that you didn't register for the marathon. So your punishment to yourself is you're going to immediately go register for the next marathon, okay? Or you didn't quite lose the 10 pounds, or maybe you lost a few pounds, but then you gained even more. Then your commitment to yourself, that your punishment for not following through with your commitment of eating healthier and exercising is that you're going to up your regimen of exercise, okay? Or you're going to up the ante and say, okay, because I didn't run today, now I have to run tonight before I eat dinner. Or instead of watching Netflix tonight, I'm gonna go run or do extra push-ups or whatever it is, okay? So make a consequence for if you don't follow through, but don't have it be something negative, have it be something positive, right? Now, last thing I will say to close this out is, yes, this is a very heavy subject and it's something that everybody has to work on. I'm not sitting here in front of you as, Guru Jake, I'm Mr. I know it all and I'm perfect on all these things. No, absolutely not. The reason I'm able to even speak on these things is because these are things that I am actually also personally working on or working through or have already worked on and worked through, okay? These are things that I have spent a great deal of time on focusing on, okay? So I have thought about it enough and have failed enough times to be able to speak about what is successful, okay? And you have to realize that it's okay to not be perfect. And that's probably the last, and first step to accepting yourself is realizing that you're not going to be perfect, man. We live in a world where nothing, literally nothing is perfect, okay? Except maybe nature, right? And the natural creations around us of the earth and animals and stuff, right? The reality is everyone has dreams of what they want to be when they're kids or whatever that don't come true later on in life, okay? Everybody wanted to be an astronaut or the president or, athlete or whatever it is, okay? And almost nobody actually fulfilled those dreams, okay? And it's okay. You can't judge yourself on your so-called quote-unquote failures, okay? What you need to, if anything, judge yourself on is what are you doing now? What are you doing to get a little bit better each day, okay? What are you doing to improve your life? And that is the qualitative or quantitative measurement of analyzing your success as a person, in my opinion, all right? Not whether you became an astronaut or baseball player, all right? The reality is that most people don't have shit figured out, all right? And we oftentimes feel like we're lost in the dark and that, you know, we're afraid of other people making fun of us or other people judging us or whatever. But the reality is everybody's going through this thing together, man. Everybody is equally in the dark. Nobody knows what happens when we die. Nobody knows what happened before we were born, right? Where we came from, where does our souls or our spirits come from, and where do they go? Nobody knows the greatest, you know, the answers to life's greatest questions, okay? Except for 42, right? Now, this is definitely a huge topic and something that if you struggle with this, don't just take my advice for stuff. You're going to want to educate yourself about this in a greater way. I'm somebody who has spent a lot of time thinking about this topic and dealing with this for myself, okay, and seeing it in others. But, you know, read some literature on it, watch some more videos on it, but ultimately do your own work on it, okay? You have to put things into action. You have to take steps to correct these measures if you ever truly want to accept yourself, because you cannot be happy if you do not accept who you are, all right? And that's the plain and simple truth, all right? If you're always at odds with who you are internally, you're never going to be happy, man. You're never going to be happy, all right? So I hope that this video was useful for people and this podcast. And if this is your first video, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you keep getting more content and getting this podcast. And make sure you hit the like button, leave me a review or a comment, share it with somebody who you think might benefit. And again, just do the work, man. Do the work and it's going to pay off, I guarantee you. All right? Jake Fletcher Show podcast, another one in the books. And I thank you guys for listening. If you need help with anything real estate related in South Florida and beyond, send me an email at realtymiamifl.com, realtymiamifl@gmail.com. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.